morning, everyone. My name is Liz Gardner, and I want to thank all of you for coming today. I'm taking a little bit of privilege this morning because it's our 15th anniversary, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the 15th anniversary Woodlawn Community Summit Committee, which is all of these ladies standing here, and we have one gentleman, but hooray for this is Women's History Month, so there you go. So for the last 15 years, most, if not all of these wonderful people have exemplified dedication, innovation, and unwavering commitment to the Woodlawn community, the South Side of Chicago, and the entire city at large. Their collaborative spirit and shared vision has elevated the summit to new heights. We started in a little room over there, and now we've taken over the whole building. So I want to thank everyone for that. I'd also like to acknowledge those who are no longer with us physically, but have passed on their knowledge in spirit and told us what it means for community engagement and what it means to be a leader. So Bishop Arthur M. Brazier, who was one of our first panelists, Rudy Nimmox, Dr. Leon Finney, Maddie Butler, and Shirley Newsom, who would have been standing right there at that door, just kind of shepherding everybody here. So I just want to thank all of them. So to this committee, they always say, give us your flowers while you can see them, and I know I'm butchering that up. But we don't have flowers today, but we have a little token of gratitude. And so when I call your name, I'd like you just to come up and get your small piece of gratitude. And that's Sandra Bivens. Sandra runs the 51st Street Business Association. Diane Burnham, who is celebrating 10 years as executive director.
10 years.
Naomi Davis, who has served on the committee since its inception. Felicia Dawson from POAH, who has allowed us to use their community rooms and whatever else we wanted, so thank you. Paula M. Grant. Paula joined us when she was at Neighborhood Housing Services and then went on to Associated Bank, so we want to thank her for her support. Jawanda Hairston, who, we had to cajole, and so she's been such a wonderful person for us. She's an educator, so she's in charge of bringing all of our students. Corey Howard, who is not here today. Dr. Terry Kilbane, who is ill, so she is not with us today. Alicia August Wright, who is not here today, she is ill. And then Deidre McGraw, who, she kind of jumped in and helped out when she went. Kamaria. Kamaria just had knee surgery, so she's going to hobble on up here and get her award. Alice Smith-Jones, who is a community leader, she's joined us, and Alice has been very instrumental in making sure that we make sure that the seniors are represented. So the summit is really trying to be more intergenerational. So thank you, Alice, for all of your help. Then we have Ramon Vance, who tells us what to do and gets us in order. Suzanne Waddell, who is one of our newest members, but we appreciate all of her work, and she is with Blacks in Green. And Tessina Williams, who started out as a community organizer, and she's all over Washington Park, but she joins us over here in Woodlawn, so thank you, Tessina. And then last but not least, Wendy Walker Williams. Wendy actually joined us at the very first summit in the back room, and now she's really spearheading us moving forward. So I just want to thank everyone for being part of us, and thank you guys.
Yay,
Appreciate
Liz.
it. Yes.
Yay, Liz. Hey, Liz.
Hey, Wendy.
How you doing, Liz? So Liz starts sending us emails to prepare for the summit in
The day after?
the day after. And so on behalf of this committee and everybody in this room, we want to thank you for your tireless dedication. This is truly a labor of love. No amount of money can substitute what you've been doing, so thank you.
wanted to leave me out of this, so thank you very much. So thank you all, and we'll be getting started with our program. So,
So who's up first, Kenny?
we'll have Kenny Williams, and we're starting with the program. So Kenny Williams would open us up.
Good morning. My name is Kenneth Williams, and I am a sophomore at Mount Carmel High School, which is right here in Woodlawn. Therefore, I would like to open up with a prayer to start this event. If you will please be so kind as to bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together year after year to make a difference in the Woodlawn community. Open our hearts, open our eyes, to see our communities as you would have us to see them. Help us find the courage to sit and hear others when so often we want to be heard first. We thank you. We thank all the community partners who have sacrificed their resources and time for this undertaken event. We pray that you will shower us with your blessings and help us work together in the unity of the Holy Spirit and the sign of peace. We make this movement towards freedom for all those who've been oppressed and all those in the struggles. We pray these blessings in your name. Amen. All right. Now, it is my honor to introduce our next speaker. She is no stranger to the Woodlawn Summit. On behalf of the Planning Committee and residents of Woodlawn, thank you for your community support. Please give it up for Cook County President, Ms. Toni Pratt-Winkle.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I want to thank that young man. Where is he? Where'd he go? Oh, over there. Okay, good. I was a high school teacher for 10 years, as many of you know, so it's always nice to see young people here at the podium. I'm once again honored to be here to celebrate with you the 15th Annual Woodlawn Community Summit. Over the years, the Woodlawn Community Summit has served as a true collaboration of neighbors, youth groups, elected officials, business owners, community stakeholders, all working together to promote the growth and well-being of Woodlawn and its surrounding communities. It's because of the leadership of the Southeast Chicago Commission and others that this event has blossomed into an important civic event. I want to thank all of the dedicated women, and I guess there was one guy, who were honored earlier for their good work in putting the event together. Woodlawn is more than a beautiful lakefront neighborhood surrounded by 2 parks. It has an affordable cost of living, an important home ownership community, and local businesses that employ residents, all of whom are essential to the strength and sustaining of Woodlawn. This is a moment that will shape our future. I'm proud of the Woodlawn community spirit that continues to create and foster a strong community. Now, if I can take a moment, a personal moment here, to encourage all of you to vote. I'm not just a member of the Democratic Central Committee, along with Senator Maddie Hunter, who's here, but I'm also chair of the party. And this is a critical time in our country's history. We have a Democratic primary election coming up in March 19th, and of course the momentous election in November. I always say, and I always used to tell my students, you know, your first obligation as a citizen is voting. Necessary but not sufficient, however. You have to contribute time and money to the candidates you believe in. Otherwise, we'll leave the political environment to those with big bucks. And all of us together can have an impact on our electoral process if we decide to get involved. So I want to encourage you to learn about the candidates, to see who stands for what and why. I'm particularly concerned this year about our state's attorney's race and how our communities are viewed by the state's attorney. Needless to say, I have a candidate that I'm strongly supporting Clayton Harris. And it's important that we not go backward to a time when black folks were snatched up off the street and put in jail without having been guilty of anything. We're at a moment in time where our state's attorney has brought into court innocence cases for more than 250 people wrongfully convicted. 250 people wrongfully convicted, and God knows how many more there are out there. So, as I said, this is an important moment. Thank you for giving me the personal privilege to talk a little bit about politics as well as community organizing. Now, I understand that although he couldn't be with us personally, our senior senator from Illinois has a message for us. Senator Dick Durbin.
Hi, Dick Durbin here. Thanks for inviting me to the 15th Annual Woodlawn Summit. Creating a safe, sustainable, engaged community takes hard work and a real investment of time and resources. It's no small task, but you've devoted yourselves to developing Woodlawn and its surrounding community. Thanks to the dedication of groups like yours, the South Side's seeing a new wave of interest and opportunity. The Obama Presidential Center has begun construction. Important infrastructure and housing developments are planned, all of which create exciting opportunities for residents and business owners. I'm pleased to see that Blacks in Green, a group I know well, is hosting an Environmental Justice Technical Assistance Center at today's summit. And I hope everyone can take time to learn about and apply for historic federal funding for small businesses and homeowners. Thanks to the Biden-Harris administration, that is. We see now we can transform our underserved places into thriving communities. Since its inception in 2009, this summit has grown from 100 people or so to an assembly who's who in the neighborhood, with more than 500 participants last year. I'm thankful that year after year, this summit continues to serve as a model of civic leadership and engagement. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you to Senator Durbin. Now, I would ask Senator Maddie Hunter, Senator Robert Peters, Alderman Desmond Yancey, and Alderman Jeanette Taylor to come up for a minute. I realize that the protocol is state officials first, but I served in the city council, so the city council people are going to be first. Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor.
All right.
Good morning. It's a little early. I tell him every year, like, we got to start at 9 o'clock. So I got a little brain fog, so excuse me. So first, happy Women's History Month. Thank you to the women in the room. We definitely are in positions to lead and make sure. Okay. Am I okay? Okay, all right. She was telling me to move over. I'm just following directions. So thanks to the women in this room who helped to move this community and push the things that we mean. Now, brothers, I ain't gonna forget about you. Thank you all for your love and protection in the community. We are here today to do what we do every year, and that's to get information, that's to have the hard conversations, and that's to make sure that our communities are supported and we talk about the needs of our community. I'll be here for a little while. I'm waking up, so if you don't see me smiling, has nothing to do with being here or having to get up at 7:30. I'm gonna turn it back over to President Preckwinkle. Thank you all.
Go ahead, Desmond.
I'm not President Preckwinkle. How about that? Alderman Desmond Yancey, new alderman for the 5th Ward. A year ago, I was here asking for your vote. Today, I stand committed in support of all the good work that is happening here in Woodlawn. And I'm going to say Happy Women's History Month because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't not just for the power of women, but when I was looking at the women that were on the stage just a few minutes ago, this is what community looks like. You know, as a longtime community and labor organizer, to see people in the community who are wholly invested in its development, you know, from tip to stern, from every corner, from every space, from nonprofit to for-profit to, you know, community partnerships, like these are the things that we need in order for our communities to thrive. Brothers and sisters, I'm glad to be able to support Alderwoman Taylor in this ward, but I'm also looking for your support as we look at your sister and brothers to the South and South Shore. We've got a lot of work to do there, and this is the model for the development that we need. So I will be calling on all of you to bring the support all the way through, because we want to build a better, safer city, and it's only going to happen when all of us are invested in its future. Thank you all.
I'm going to ask next the person who has the most seniority, Senator Maddie Hunter. Leadership. Oh, all right.
Good morning. Thank you very much, President Preckwinkle. So good to see you all, and congratulations on 15 years. It takes a long time, y'all, and a lot of commitment, you know, to just decide to work on any kind of project for 15 years. So I'd like to congratulate all of the organizers and the founders of this wonderful summit. We in Springfield, we have capital dollars occasionally, and I know that you all are always planning different activities, but you don't include us on the front end. On the front end. We hear from you at the back end, and then you say, here, can you find us some money to fund this? Okay? You don't do it like that. You try to engage us up front so that we'll have a bigger picture and can help you start finding some dollars to bring into the Woodlawn community. I do not live in the Woodlawn community. I live next door in the Washington Park community. But yes, that's right. However, I am the 20th Ward committeeman, and I am running for re-election, and I would like for your continued support. Thank you very much.
All right, last but not least, my Senator, Robert Peters.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Let me just say, I have a unique district. It stretches from downtown all along the lakefront to the southeast side. And fundamentally, my belief is what will make this city special, what will make this state special, is to make sure that the investments that we're putting downtown are the same as the investments that we put in Woodlawn, are same as the investments when it comes to South Chicago. We have all these conversations about what it means for us to have a safer city. Safety's pretty clear. You give people good, affordable housing, you give people a good job, you give people investment when it comes to their public transportation so they can go from point A to point B relatively easily. You give people that investment, you get safety. And that is an opportunity that we have in Woodlawn, and that's an opportunity I'm going to continue to fight for, because we can continue to be at the forefront of making sure that every zip code in Chicago and this state has what it needs, has the investment that it needs, has the safety that it deserves, and the dignity that everybody who lives in those communities deserves. So I'm honored to be here. This is amazing, 15 wonderful years. I know we have a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with each and every one of you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Cook County is a big county, and I'm supposed to be in Willow Springs at 10 o'clock, so I can't stay with you. But I want you to know you're blessed to have 4 of your elected officials here with you today. They could be lots of other places, and they're here with you. So I think that is an indication of their commitment to this community, and you ought to take the time today, in whatever breaks you have, to talk to them about the work that's going on and how they might be helpful to you, to Senator Maddie Hunter's point. Thank you all.
Can we get another round for President Preckwinkle? She is very busy, and she finds a way to join us every year. So good morning. Good morning. All right, after 15 years, you got it. I'm Wendy Walker-Williams. I'm the Executive Director of Community Partnerships for the Office of Civic Engagement at the University of Chicago, and I bring you greetings on behalf of the Office of Civic Engagement and the Crown Family School of Social Work. What a fantastic turnout for the 15th Annual Summit. We had over 500 RSVPs, and needless to say, we were very worried yesterday. So my daughter said, I can't believe it's been 15 years, Mom. I said, oh yeah, I've been coming since I was 20. While much has changed within the past year, for example, the Office of Civic Engagement has a new vice president, Christian Mitchell, who cannot be with us here today, unfortunately, and 2 new AVPs, Ashley Brown and Abel Ochoa. Are they here? I hope they're supposed to be here. Can you stand up and wave? Oh, where's it? Oh, there you are. Hi. Okay. And a new alderman of the 5th Ward, Desmond Yancey. The one constant is the support and admiration of this committed group of neighbors who volunteer their time and their talent to ensure a safe space for us to discuss our community's opportunities and challenges. The University of Chicago has been involved in the planning and execution of this event since 2009, not only as sponsors, but as neighbors. We believe the Woodlawn Summit is community engagement at its best because it is. At this time, I would like to bring up Christina Negri from Argonne. She leads the Community Research on Climate and Urban Science. Welcome.
Good morning. I was a request, please put your phones on silent, please. That was instruction, yes? And I want to first thank the Woodlawn Summit team for inviting the Crocus team here today. It's really wonderful to see this big crowd and tell you a little bit what we have been doing. My name is Christina. I'm a scientist working at our national lab. Argonne is a little further south, but we're working in the city a lot. I'm the lead investigator for Crocus. Crocus stands for Community Research on Climate and Urban Science. And I'm also a neighbor here in Hyde Park. We introduced Crocus a little bit last year. If you were here, I'm here to tell you a little bit what we've learned this year and what we are going to do soon here. Crocus is a special scientific project. It's about studying the relationships between cities and climate change. It all plays out in Chicago. We're using the city as a living laboratory for understanding this. It really aims at working to understand the pressing needs of communities when it comes to combating climate change. It has been an intense year, much devoted to organizational aspects, but also to put down the basis to refine our scientific tool to provide you with the best data possible. Working with community leaders, we are beginning to understand and document pressing issues on how climate change affects some communities more than others. In terms of heat, crazy weather, flooding, air quality, all those big issues that affect our life every single day. We have developed some tools for computer simulation, and we hope we can actually present to you as ways to really investigate questions that are really important to the community in Woodlawn and elsewhere in the city. We also have begun to install some of our instruments for weather and atmospheric sensors around the city to document how, in fact, changes in temperature and flooding play out different ways in different communities. Why is this important for environmental justice? Because science is based on data, and data can be biased. To not be biased, science must include issues that are important to specific communities that are often neglected, community knowledge that we need to learn from the community itself, and also provide data that represent those communities and examine potential solutions that are really what the community wants and can subscribe to. So as a scientist, we have promised to be on the alert about research biases and really represent everyone and be inclusive in our research. We are learning day by day just what is our role in supporting underrepresented communities and communities that need investments to make their neighborhood better, and really provide the specific information that will make their case absolutely clear. I think this is the most important work that I've done in my 30-plus years in my career as a scientist, period. More scientific data is important where there's very little. It's important to help support best decision in the future, right? Just to give an example, Woodlawn suffered the highest amount of death and was heavily impacted when we had the big hot spell in the summer of 1995. Now, if we use generic Chicago data around the city, we'll never know why Woodlawn suffered so much from that event. And that's exactly what we are about to do, just to focus on communities where a lack of data have really impeded really true understanding of the problems as they are. And so So this year we are going to deepen our conversation with community. We work with community leaders a lot in understanding potential choices, what would be the future for the community, and how can we prepare the community for being resilient to climate change. And so I cannot wait until we continue to meet in focus group to really sort out this, to work with Blacks and Greens in Green to understand how their sustainable square mile can really be completely climate proof, and also to work with communities to install some of our sensors perhaps at our schools. So not only we get the data, but we get students to actually learn a trade and learn how to do this kind of science. And so with that, my time is up, and thank you very much for listening, and I hope to be with you soon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Paula Grant, and I'm a CRA Senior Residential Lending Manager for Associated Bank. We're very proud to be a sponsor of the Woodlawn Summit. I'm actually very proud because I've actually been working with the Summit for the last 10 years. So I haven't been here 15, but 10 years I think is a long time. And as they said, we were pretty much on that side of the building, and now we take over the entire building. And so with that, too, I started with Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, working here, and then I bought Associated Bank. We've been here now 6 years, so I'm very proud to work for a place that when I said that this is where we need to be, they came. My director is here today, Melissa Arant, and she, wave to everybody. She came all the way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So anyway, I just want to again say that we at Associated Bank, we work in the South Side, Bronzeville, Woodlawn, West Side communities. And so we're, again, working here in Woodlawn, and being here today is just a great thing. We have a housing breakout session today, talking about creative ways for housing. And then we also have a bus tour, and that'll take you to 6 properties. So one of the things, too, my tour person today told me, she's in the to my left and kind of in the back, people aren't signing in, so please sign in for the tour. We had over 70 people that registered, so please do that. And again, working in residential lending, we have products that will help you purchase, whether you're an investor or a first-time home buyer. And so please come out and to our table in the back. We have a location not too far away at Bronzeville at 741 and 743 East 47th Street. And so we have it's a retail branch, full service, and then we have our loan production office where I'm the manager of that office. And so thank you again for having us today. And I know we're gonna have a great summit with great information for you. Thanks.
I'm a little bit taller. So good morning, everyone. My name is Diane Burnham. I'm the Executive Director of the Southeast Chicago Commission, and I would like to welcome you to the 15th Annual Woodlawn Community Summit Celebration of Service. This is my 10th year with SECC and with the Summit. And just to give you a little background, Southeast Chicago Commission is a regional community and economic development organization, and we serve 5 Mid-South Side communities, Woodlawn being one of them. And we are also proud to be the fiscal sponsor as well as program support of the Woodlawn Summit for at least 12 years. So we've been in this, doing this for a long time. We're so happy to have everyone here. It's truly amazing to see so many people come out, so many familiar faces. We bring people together, not just for one day, but for 15 years. It's almost like a family reunion when we come here. And something I'd like to do, actually, is I'd like to take a moment and ask you to turn to whoever's sitting next to you and just say thank you. Because this is really about getting to know your neighbors, your community organizations, the University of Chicago staff, really bringing us all together. Now, I didn't say have a whole conversation. Okay, so though this, no, I'm just kidding. But I would like to take this moment to recognize the SECC Board of Directors and Team SECC, which is Raymond Vance, Rod Sawyer, Tessina Williams, and Claire Davey. Raise your hands, board and staff. Where are y'all at? Two of the committee members are also board members. Sandra Bivens and Elizabeth Gardner are also on SECC's board. I also want to take this moment to thank the Woodlawn Community Summit Planning Committee, which you all got to see all of us come up in the front, and that was such special awards. Thank you, Liz, for that surprise. And then also all the volunteers that make this happen. I'd also like to thank CEI Media Group, who supports all of the marketing and media efforts. I'd like to thank the Abbott Hall and Crown Family Schools Social Service Building, who has been hosting us since the beginning, maybe? I know this started in a classroom with like a handful of neighbors, and then look at us now. It's unbelievable. Lastly, I do have the privilege of acknowledging our elected officials who have been here with us today. As you saw, we had a special message from Senator Durbin, and we thank him. He has been here before. He just couldn't make it today. And we also, on our website, we have letters from Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson. I'd also like to thank Cook County Board President Preckwinkle for your opening remarks. Cook County Assessor Fritz Kagi and his team are here today. Cook County Commissioner Bill Lowry will be here today. Illinois Supreme Court Justice Joy Cunningham, Illinois State Senator Robert Peters, Illinois State Senator Maddie Hunter, 20th Ward Alderman Taylor, 5th Ward Alderman Nancy, it has to keep going, right? 3rd District Commander Melvin Branch. So if you haven't had a chance to meet Commander Branch, he is here today. So express all of your safety and community engaging concerns. And Chief of Police for the University of Chicago, Kyle Bowman, is here. And then lastly, he will be speaking shortly. I would like to also welcome Congressman Jackson today. So we are in a room of movers and shakers, but it's also you all that are the movers and shakers that help make the vibrancy of Woodlawn and the woven fabric, the past, the present, and the future of Woodlawn. We're all here today. And so next, I want to turn it over to our future. We have 2 young volunteers who have been volunteering with the summit. As Wendy mentioned, her daughter said, I can't believe it's been 15 years. Well, they are now at the college age, and they will come up, and they have a few words for you guys.
Hello, my name is Savannah Phillips. I am a Woodlawn resident and a senior at Gwendolyn Brooks College Prep. I'd like to offer a special thank you to our sponsors, Argonne National Bank Lab, Associated Bank, Black is Green, CEI Media, AKA Rama Foundation, Cooper's Hawk, and Echo.
Hello, my name is Katie Williams, and I am a Grand Boulevard resident and a senior at the University of Chicago Laboratory Schools, where I serve as president of several clubs and team president of the Jack and Jill Chicago chapter. I'd like to offer a special thank you to our sponsors, the Preservation of Affordable Housing, Southeast Chicago Commission, the University of Chicago Office of Civic Engagement, the University of Chicago Public Safety Advisory Council, Toyota Institute, YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago. But furthermore, I'd like to introduce Congressman Jonathan Jackson. A native Chicagoan and Southsider, Congressman Jonathan L. Jackson represents Illinois' 1st Congressional District. Born to civil rights leaders Reverend Jesse Jackson and Jacqueline Jackson, the fight for unrepresented people runs in Congressman Jackson's blood. He has long been an advocate for marginalized communities, using his platform to fight for equity and civil rights.
Congressman Jackson's commitment to social justice and equity has been the driving force behind his activism. He is committed to promoting policies that advance equality and justice, improving access to quality education and healthcare, and protecting the environment. He proudly serves on the House Committee on Agriculture and on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs and is dedicated to working with his colleagues to pass meaningful legislation that will benefit the people of Chicago and the nation. Please welcome Congressman Jonathan Jackson.
Let's give our young people a round of applause. Felt like I took a head fake. I thought I was going to be introduced by the first person. And like B.B. King said, never make your move too soon. But I want to thank you very much. I'd like to thank the University of Chicago for hosting us. I'd like to thank the sponsors that have come out to participate once again. I'd like to thank the Blacks in Green and the entire Woodlawn community for being a part of this transformational change. As I reflect upon the University of Chicago, I went to the nursery school just over here on Woodlawn, Hyde Park Union, and my mother and father came here for graduate school, and Reverend Martin Luther King offered my father the opportunity to work with him and says, you will learn more about the seminary in 6 months with me than you will in the last 3 years. My father was right down the block, lost his scholarship to join Reverend Martin Luther King in a fight for social, racial, and economic justice. So I applaud my mother and father's work and the entire Hyde Park, Woodlawn community and University of Chicago, then and now. Can't help but think about the title of our topic today, of Blacks in Green, and now there's a curious term that's being used on climate change. But let's replay the tape and go back. The original call was global warming. And then when the pollsters and other people got to the language and played with it, they softened the blow to call it climate change because things always change. But the fact is, it has rained more in February in Chicago than it has snowed. The world is warming up, and we're very much on the precipice of seeing a snowless winter in this region. Being on the Agriculture Committee, you understand that even if you live in the city, we're going to need the food from the farmland, and you need it to snow so that the water can pack up so that it can slowly seep into the soil so there's not a runoff so the nutrients can get down to the soil. So this is going to affect food prices, ladies and gentlemen. And then when you see the torrential rains that have come in California that have swept their topsoil away, there is a climate crisis all over the world right now. As we look at the migrant issue, we see it at the border of Mexico, but it doesn't start in Texas or Mexico. People are no longer able to live in parts of the Central Caribbean and a part of the coastal line in the northern part of South and Central America. People are having to flee. If you look at all the migrants that are moving around the world, that would be the 5th largest nation on earth right now. Over 400 million people are having to flee their homeland from climate, from crisis, from war-torn areas. So we have to be concerned not just about Woodlawn, but helping the people where they come from so that they can have a sustainable environment and stay where they live. No one really wants to come here, crossing a river with not speaking the language, with no money in their pocket, with a baby on their shoulder, crawling underneath barbed wire fences to get here. So we have to be concerned. So I'm on foreign affairs as well. There are over 500,000 people on the encampments coming up from South and Central America as we speak. I don't want to fix the blame, I want to fix the problem. And I just want you to simply know what is coming our way. In closing, as we look at Blacks in Green, we have to move from blacks out of being in the red to getting into the green. We have a housing crisis going on that keeps us in the red. We have a gun crisis that keeps our cities and streets in the red. We have a taxation problem that's keeping our businesses in the red. And we have an environmental crisis that's right now on us that's keeping us in the red. If you look at all the data, and I want to thank the participants from Argonne Laboratory, thank you for your studious remarks and other things. We know it was too hot in 1999, and many of our family members that have asthma and bronchitis had gotten it triggered and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, more is on the way. If you look at the past patterns of investments in our neighborhood, We have the least amount of trees in black communities all across the country. We have the environmental cleanup all across the country. So being able to raise this issue right now, blacks and green, I could not think of a more timely subject, and I want to thank each of you for your participation. We are now going to be moving the first congressional office from 117th South on Western Avenue over here to 63rd and Cottage Grove. We should be opening by the beginning of June, no later than the end of June. Now, I don't like to play politics, but you all put me here and I thank you, so your office is closer.
Okay. Thank you, Congressman Jackson. I am so glad you're going to be at 63rd and Cottage. So I can just walk on down. So I want to really, truly thank Congressman Jackson and his staff, Danita, and all of the people in his office, because we wore them down to get the congressman here today. We know you were in Washington for the State of the Union, and we waved when we saw you on TV, but we are so glad that you're here to see us in person. So I really appreciate that. So before we start the plenary, I really do want to celebrate the sponsors who have been with us from the very, very beginning. So I'd like to celebrate Apostolic Church of God Network of Woodlawn. Pastor Brazier could not be here today. Dwayne Bailey is here. So Dwayne, you want to come on up? And we appreciate Apostolic Church and the Network of Woodlawn. They've been so special to us in giving us spiritual guidance as well. So thank you. And Dr. Brazier is online, so we can wave at him as well. I also want to thank Associated Bank, Melissa and Paula. We really appreciate your support. So Melissa, if you want to come on up, we appreciate that. The team at the Preservation of Affordable Housing, I know they're over there with their booth. Felicia and Bill Eager have been really good friends of the summit for many, 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 many years. So not sure if Bill is here, but I appreciate all of the staff at POAH. The Southeast Chicago Commission, Jordan Sorrell, and the board. Jordan is our new executive director, and he's following in some pretty deep footsteps following Shirley Newsome. So definitely thank you, Jordan, and the Southeast Chicago Commission, and Diane, and all of the board. So anybody that's on the board, come on up. The University of Chicago Crown School, Sid is back there giving us the AV. Carmela has helped us really do the logistics of the building. And then we also have Tashina M. Jackson. Is Tashina here? So we will make sure that the Crown School of Social Work and Public Policy gets their award. And then finally, the University of Chicago Office of Civic Engagement, Ashley Brown, Wendy Williams, Shaz Razul, Abel Ochoa. Where is Alyssa? Alyssa Berman Cutler is around. So Alyssa runs U Chicago Local. She'll be in a workshop today. So these are all of our wonderful supporters over the last 15 years. Oh, and CEI Media. Come on up, Jared and PJ McGuire. PJ flew in just to support us. She's our PR representative, so I really want to thank you. And then Naomi, Blacks in Green, and Suzanne, and the whole staff from Blacks in Green. So we want to thank all of them for celebrating us today. Oh, hang on for one more second.
We're doing a little photo op here real quick, and while we do that, in the interest of time, I want to bring up some of our babies. You all actually saw all three of our babies. These are our Woodlawn babies. that have helped us with the summit, even when they were in their parents' arms, running around. So we want to take a moment. I just would like to say that these are certificates that are in appreciation, and to certify that Savannah, Katie, and Kenny have demonstrated exceptional commitment and dedication as youth volunteers to the Woodlawn Community Summit. Whoop, whoop. In recognition of your selfless contributions, unwavering enthusiasm, even early in the morning, and positive impact on the Woodlawn community, we express our heartfelt gratitude. Your service has significantly contributed to the growth, vibrancy, and well-being of the Woodlawn community. So I'd like to present this to Miss Katie Joy. Thank you, Katie Joy. Where's Savannah? Where are you, Savannah? Okay, she's in the back. But here's, while she's coming up, we're gonna say, Mr. Kenny, Reverend Dr. Kenny Williams. And Savannah, thank you, my sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you for everything that these young people do, and let's just keep them in prayer as they move forward with their education and future careers. One thing young people like is money. So here's a little something for you all. Maybe your moms and dads will let you spend it as you wish. Thank you.
Good morning. All right. I'm going to ask our panelists to join us. I'm going to ask that we keep our conversations on the side. I know we want to network and engage, but we want to get into a discussion. I'm not sure why they asked me to do this. My team knows I go a little rogue and I have no filters, but we're going to see how this goes. So I'm going to ask Dorri, Joel, Naomi, Chef Tiffany, Alyssa, join us at this. Come on in. Come on in. Sit down. We want this to be a conversation. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to use the mic, but I don't like mics. And I do want us to have a conversation. So I'm like a little bit like Tony. We appreciate you coming. And I think it's important to note that the Woodlawn Community Summit, as we talk about organizations, and people think all the stakeholders are people that get paid to do this work, the Woodlawn Community Summit are a bunch of neighbors that got together 15 years ago and said, we got to get information out to Woodlawn. We got to find out what's going on in our neighborhood, and we want to be committed. So they have been investing their own time. They don't get paid. There is no check on the side. All the funds and the sponsors that we are goes to make these types of events happen. So I want people to know that when you leave here, because we want you to get a couple of tidbits before you leave. So does that make sense? Yeah. Can we all agree that we're going to keep our conversations down? We're going to be respectful of each other if you have questions. We want you to be passionate about all the topics we're talking about, but we're going to respect each other as we hear what each other has to say, because every voice is of value. That works? Yes. All right. I am the first to say, and I'm going to be a little intentional about making sure we're keeping conversations down. All right. I am the first to say that ours is a complex and very difficult country, and some of our complexities are indeed grotesque. We who are Negro Americans can offer that last remark with unwavering insistence. It is, on the other hand, as I wait for us to be calm and quiet on the side, also a great nation with certain beautiful and indestructible traditions and potentials which can be seized by all of us who imagination, who have imagination and love of each other. I took a little bit of editorial liberties with that. There is, as a certain place suggests, a great deal to be fought in this America. We all know that. But at the same time, there is so much which begs to be reaffirmed and cherished with sweet, but definitely defiance. Those words with my little editorial tweaks came from Lorraine Hansberry, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. Semi-autographical book. The place he's referring to, we all should know, is what? A Raisin in the Sun. I might do tests along the way because we're going to keep this live and conversations down. I'm going to keep saying that until we make sure we adhere to and give respect to everybody in the room. Thank you. And she lived in Woodlawn. That's important to know. Good morning. My name is Felicia Dawson. I'm Vice President, POAH Communities, and welcome to the 15th Annual Woodlawn Community Summit. Our conversation today is past, present, and the future. Talking about Woodlawn. Somebody's got a heavy voice, so we're gonna compete today, but I'm gonna win. We've got an exciting panel of guests who are excellent. While you are voices of value and have a whole lot to give us while we're here, these folks have been doing some collective work in this neighborhood, on the ground, with your neighbors that you may not even know about. So we decided to bring them all together so that we could talk about what our past was, what our present is, and where we're going in the future. I'm gonna ask them, usually, we introduce them and give them wonderful accolades, but I'm gonna let them talk about themselves because nobody can do it better when you say it about yourself. But I'm gonna ask you to tell your name, the name of your organization, how your organization got to Woodlawn, and then it's very important, a fun fact, because while we get information, and there's a lot going on, we also wanna have a good time. So give us a fun fact about yourselves, and I'm gonna start right here because I'm looking at this beautiful queen, Naomi.
Okay, so do I do it in any particular order?
Whatever order you wanna do it.
Okay, I'm gonna do the fun fact first. I'm going to do a 5-day hike in the Porcupine Mountains of Michigan, mid-May, hopefully right before the mosquitoes hatch. And so I'm walking every Sunday along the lakefront to get ready, because I'm out of shape. But I'm cracking. 5 miles last weekend. Okay.
I think we all should go see if she's gonna do it. So you're gonna give your name, your organization, and how you got here, and I just wanna insert that we have 1.2 minutes. And I'm looking at my timekeeper. And I gently, with love, move us to the next person. Go ahead, no, you've gotta finish your questions. We gotta hear you.
Naomi Davis, founder, CEO of Big, Blacks and Green, and what are we doing? How we got to Woodlawn. Lost all my real estate, looking for a cheap place to live, landed on 60th and St. Lawrence, and have loved it every minute since.
All right.
Good morning, everyone.
It's no longer a cheap place to live, but I still love it.
True.
Joel Hamernick. Most of you know me from Sunshine. We've been in the neighborhood. We moved into the neighborhood in 2004 with the organization Sunshine Gospel Ministries, and I have lived a couple different places, but still at 61st and St. Lawrence. Now run an organization called Coach House Solutions. My wife and I are helping grassroots gun violence organizations raise money. Fun fact, we have 7 kids, and my granddaughter and other 3 grandkids now, and so just a big local family. How's that?
That's a fun fact.
Hi. Hi, my name is Tiffany Williams. I am the owner of Exquisite Catering and Events. Thank you. How I got to Woodlawn, my mom, she's been here for 55 years, so that's how I got here. I'm still a part of Woodlawn, even though I don't resident here. My business is here. I work in Woodlawn. And fun fact, a lot of people know, I think, I just got off a tour, my 3rd tour with Beyonce as a chef. So I represent Woodlawn. The fun fact is actually that I represent Woodlawn everywhere I go. So you guys are known across the world when I go on tour with her.
Good morning, everyone. Dorri McWhorter, representing the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago. And I'll say the fun fact is also how long the Y has been in Woodlawn. So prior to the YMCA, I was the CEO of the YWCA, which we've been working with Felicia and Naomi and all these wonderful folks for so long. But now I'm at the YMCA. But the fun fact, which I hope all of you know by now, that Black History Month was founded at the Wabash Y. So that's not so much, in this crowd, that ain't a fun fact, but I use it everywhere else. And so, but I have to say I'm proud of that legacy. So from a Woodlawn perspective, the YMCA has been around 165 years, but has also had representation across the communities. And we'll get to a later question on how that's changed over the years. But just excited to be here and excited to be amongst family.
So that's some exciting stuff. Some fun facts we'll come back to later. I'll just say a fun fact, as I've said, is just wait for the rogue. I do want to continue to look at my side because we're going to keep it quiet so that we can hear this conversation and take some good notes because we're going to get into some real discussion. So I kind of wanted to preface how we get started with just a bit of context. Now, let me give you a disclaimer. I am by no means a historian, researcher, and I wasn't around back in the 1800s, so some of this stuff I don't know. But I'm going to give you some notable facts that we have researched and important as we get to this conversation for today, because I thought it was a little bit of context, and I'm going to do it quickly so we can stick to time and get to discussion. Prior to 1889, there were only 1,000 residents in Woodlawn, and the original neighborhood were Dutch farmers, number one. These were game-changing moments that I want you to note. We were accepted in Woodlawn, we were accepted in Chicago by Chicago as a neighborhood in 1893, which also when the World's Exposition came in and everybody started moving in, businesses, people, and Woodlawn got its feet, became to be that neighborhood that we know and love. Time moved on, Black folks started to move in, more middle class, because the commercial activity drove them. Then as the Exposition left, well, it wasn't as sexy. So the neighborhood started to figure out what do they do next. Two things happened. This is very important. The first thing is the commercial district was established in Washington Park subdivision, which is why our sister, Washington Park, is really important in that area. So that's why we talk a lot about our neighbors, because what happens to us happens to our neighbor, all of us around. That makes sense? The second thing was the 63rd Street corridor was established. And I hear residents, oftentimes more of our seniors, that they call themselves smart and sexy, more of our smart and sexy folks talk about what they saw, the skating rinks, the businesses. There was vitality, there was something happening here. Well, as we know it, as things change, people start to move. University of Chicago, when they didn't have their right hat on at the time, decided it was a good idea to figure out how to squash all those Black folks moving in the neighborhood. I can say that now because they figured it all out and they said we're gonna all work together. Isn't that right, Wendy, wherever you are? So, the second thing is redlining. Those things, those very predatory type of lending efforts that were happening to keep us out, but really trying to keep all the white folks in the community. And that stronghold lasted through World War II. So again, all of my historians, don't beat me up when I leave. I'm just giving you an overview. Those were game-changing moments. So as time went on, Depression came, saw this influx. Now we're in the 50s and 60s. Now you got a lot of tension. But what you got are a lot of people saying, we don't want to do it. Hell no, we won't go. I think I can say hell because I probably would have said a lot of other words, but I'm going to say, I think we could say, hell no, we won't go. Community said, we're not moving. We got to change these laws. These policies are corrupt. How are you going to move us out? We belong here just like everybody else. So that became a movement. But between 1960 and the 2000s, when we started in 1960, we had about 81,000 people in Woodlawn. We got to the 2000s, it was 27,000 people. So those advocates were advocating for us to just get an equal share, equity, fair policies. And those advocates, TWO, you heard her talk about Bishop Brazier. In there, we can, Maddie Butler, rest her peace, and Bishop Brazier. They did the hard work, Dr. Finney. Blood, sweat, and tears, say what you want. They fought for us to be here. So now here we are, and I did that really quickly. But I just wanted to give you a sense of where Woodlawn started. And in that, there were some beautiful things that happened. Yes, the L changed. Somebody was upset. Don't tear it down, but we got some new housing. So now we're at a new L. New housing came in. More new housing now we're seeing. I heard a conversation about housing prices at $1.2 million, but we can't find affordable housing. The alderman fought for the Woodlawn ordinance with the neighbors that came together. There's a lot of stuff that has happened that is good, but how do we look at where we were? What does that mean for how we got here? And what do we take from here and build on to where we go next? That is context, and that was just an example of how you shouldn't have your phone on when you're doing these things. She did that, that's our timekeeper. So, just to give us context, and Ms. Bivens know that we do that to each other, so. But just to give context, these are the things that have happened in this community. So how do we think about where we're going? So I'm gonna get us started. Questions. Luckily, they gave this to me to just pick, so this is where I go rogue sometimes. I'm gonna do this question. So, how has the community changed in the past 5 years, and what do you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10? And I'm gonna start with Tiffany.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's 5 years. So I started my business 7 years ago. And that's really when I became like a stakeholder, you know, when I started to pay more attention to the community. I think when you start and understand it and start to go to meetings, and you're really seeing what's going on, right? So I grew up knowing the University of Chicago taking over our neighborhood, right?
That's right.
Right? And I grew up seeing our stores closing. I grew up seeing nothing being there anymore on 63rd Street, where we had to go outside our community. I'm starting to see it come back, right, over the last 5 years or so. Starting to see it come back. Over the next 5 years coming, we'll definitely have a whole lot more infrastructure. I'm hoping with the addition of the library, with the addition of more people moving in, we'll have more stores, we'll have more places you can walk to locally instead of spending money outside the neighborhood. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Thank you, Tiffany. It's good to know, and I just say, I'm not going to take editorial liberties with your comments, but everybody always thought, at least I've heard on one side or other, the university going to come in and take over and move everybody out. That's always been the narrative, all right? So that is actually a very true statement. So imagine that in communities and residents thinking, this big university, how can it be, as it struggles within itself, how can it be an asset for the community and not be the takeover that people feel it's going to be? And I think they've gotten a lot better since I've been here in the last 10 years. So they've gotten a lot better to say, here's where we are, here's what we're gonna do. I just had to throw that in. So I'm gonna give this next question, that question to Joel.
Past 5 years?
Past 5 years.
So, I mean, obviously we have been through a pandemic that radically changed the way that people interact with one another. We hit 5 years ago the lowest mortgage interest rates sort of in our lifetime, and so you're watching now a lot of the construction and building that is sort of the coattails of this opportunity to build in the community. That's not, I mean, it's slowed down right now because interest rates are up, but we're seeing that those changes happen around us. I think the Jewel has changed the footprint of the neighborhood. The coming of the Obama Library has changed the footprint of the neighborhood in different ways. And so to me, as I look around, those are the dynamics. My wife and I were, walked over this morning, and we're just, in the 20 years, Woodlawn has become a much safer place as well. And I think there are some dynamics that we still see happening, especially around Parkway, that we're really, really concerned about and trying to think about what does the future hold there? What can we as a society do to make sure that those who are in the most vulnerable places in the community have a future that is in this community? So those are the dynamics that I think are happening around us.
I just want to stop and take a moment, because everybody on the globe was impacted by COVID. And if you think about it, the world stopped. Like, I'm going to stop right now and see if our voices are going to be low as we make sure the side panel is very quiet as we have this conversation with each other. I know. That's it. Everybody look. That's what the neighborhoods do. Everybody turn to the left and look to the side. We're doing it in love, my people over there. We're doing it in love. That's what happens on your block when your grass ain't cut. You know you get that ugly look when you walk outside your door. And with all the property we own, let me tell you, I get nasty looks, nasty calls. Yes. So that is what happens when you're living in a community. But remember, COVID happened, the world stopped. So imagine, you go to McDonald's, you get in your routine, you're getting off from work, you gotta do homework, you gotta pay the bills. The next day, you can't go to McDonald's. You don't have the money to pay the bills. The world has stopped. So we just have to keep that in context because that changed how we come out of that as we move forward. I'm gonna change questions a bit and kick it to Dorri. What have you seen? Because the Y has been here, and let me just say to Dorri, wisdom as always, my sister. Beautiful person you brought into 63rd Street, South Side Y, best side of this side of the Mississippi. Okay, maybe Chicago, definitely. Jaquetta Edgerson, she's amazing. Please go to the Y. That was a plug for you. You didn't even pay me to do it.
That.
What do you think is the biggest challenge now and most critical challenges that we must face to get to the future?
This is such an important question. And first of all, I'm so happy to be hanging with y'all this
We're
morning.
glad you hanging
And
with
my
us,
girl,
too.
Naomi. Hey, girl.
That's a
Tiffany and
conversation.
Joe.
That's how it's supposed to go.
So this is a family conversation.
That's
So
right.
we're going to treat it like a living room and have
That's
a family
right.
conversation. But I'll say, Felicia, I know you didn't ask me that last question, but I'm going to root that last question on what I see for the future. Because I was expecting to get the last question about what have we seen change in the last 5 years. And Felicia knows I'm an accountant by background. So there's a perception of what's changed. And then I go look at the data about what's changed. And when you look at the data, it also gives you almost a basis of a predictor of what's possible in these upcoming years. So a few things that jumped out at me. So the population of Woodlawn has grown. So and this is post-COVID data, because I do think it's important because COVID was a game changer for everybody. So let's look at sort of the post-COVID data. So population has grown. The median age has decreased. So that means, to me, that says we get some younger folks in here, right? But the poverty rate has also increased, and the median income, household income, has declined, but the property values have increased. None of those things make sense, right? Because they're all in conflict with each other, right? And so what we need to do, and so what I think needs to happen and Felicia, just restate the question so I make sure I don't go too far rogue.
That's okay. This is important because I'm going to tag that in a second as we talk to our group over here on the side. What is the biggest challenge now, and what are the most critical changes that we must make to face them in order to move forward?
So the reason all those data points matter, it actually gets back to what the congressman said, right? That we have to look at, because the speed of change is so fast now. That's what I don't think people understand. So we talk about 5 years. 5 years isn't a huge amount of time, but the problem is we're living in 2024, and the speed of change, what could happen in these 5 years, could be irreparable if we don't do it right now. And so we do need to focus on housing. We do need to focus on income. We do need to focus on safety. We do need to focus on migration. We do need to focus on climate. Thank you, Naomi, for having this conversation, because those things are real for us. And the speed of change is so significant that if we don't really lean into these things now, it will almost be irreversible. I'm going to pay attention to you. She said, shut up.
I love it. See how the timekeeper kept it going?
More later.
So this is why it's important, because the things that Dorri just rattled off, it's really important because we're facing it. I'm going to throw it in. My property taxes, $800 for the first quarter. That first assessment. This year, $3,000.
Talking about.
So these are things that we are struggling with. That's real. I can't make it up. We talk about COVID. So all those things, who's moving in, who's moving out. These are all important. But as we think about this, I remember when Naomi showed up in the space, what I'm going to say, kicking in Woodlawn doors, but planting her feet, trying to educate us Woodlawnonians. I made that word up. We're going to have T-shirts in the back.
Woodlawnian. Woodlawnian, that's what we call it.
That's you call okay. See, I made a whole other
Woodlawnians.
It's a T-shirt. It's going to have both on there. So she came in trying to educate us about this thing about environmental justice, and we were all looking like, what? But we also knew that Naomi wasn't going to stop coming. So I'm going to give this question to her, because I think what we also have to stop and recognize, I'm going to take this second. I'm all about Black love. And I'm going to tell you, putting Woodlawn on the map by giving Emmett Till and his family the due that they needed was all this woman. So you got to give her credit. And you got to take that as we think about Naomi, the same question, but it's really important. The challenges, what do we need? What is it that we're going to need to make the changes to move forward? This is really important. I'd like to hear this answer from you.
Well, I'm really glad, Felicia, that you brought up Till, because in the American story, of course, we associate that boy and his mother with tragedy. But what we have to do is write a new narrative about what it is to be black in America. Because if you just say, black people are, and then you give yourself a moment of silence for everyone to fill in the blank in their quiet heads, you know the ugly streaming ticker tape that happens. Whether you believe it or not, ascribe to it or not, there's a narrative about what it means to be black. And how do we actively, consciously, intentionally reverse that story? So what it is to be black in America is to be triumphant. 1, 2, 3, after me, triumph.
Triumphant.
Yeah, because who could see their son massacred in that way and stand in front of the world and say, I forgive you? What's higher and stronger and more powerful than what Mamie did? That was triumph. The death of Emmett triggered the civil rights movement. That was triumph. We organized. We had the ear of the world. We had the moral high ground. We had cash flows, y'all. These are the things that we can and must replicate now. We must understand that self-sustaining black communities everywhere, which is the Blacks in Green vision, is our birthright. It is ours to have, organize, raise money, nothing that we haven't done by far, over and above and beyond. So the Till House is an icon. And of course, when I moved to Woodlawn, it was basically a trap house. The day that we closed on it, we were so giddy and we came over with our keys, there were squatters living inside. And so how do we value ourselves? What's our story about ourselves? And how are we organizing collectively to lift up the story? I'll just say briefly, Blacks in Green was just blessed again to buy what we're calling the Shrine of the Great Migration, which is the old Lincoln Memorial Congregational United Church of Christ on 65th and Champlain.
Good.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. Amen.
We are using that place to lift up the story of the Great Migration. Believe that you should be telling your children about the victory that time and place represented. And so we bought it because our staff is growing. There's an office space that comes with it. But let me tell you this, it is your space too. The climate crisis means we need neighborhood resilience centers. It will be available for heating and cooling in those times when your money ain't coming together right and you need a little something from your neighbors. So, yeah, organizing and lifting up the heritage in a new narrative.
So I love how Naomi took all of that and still answered the question to get us right back, which will flow right back. And I'm going to ask the panel to do this for me. Just give me a couple of words because I want everybody, and I'm going to kind of rapid fire it a little bit because it feeds right into what Naomi talked about. So there is this thing. We say South Side, we say West Side. I know I travel for all the properties that we have in 13 states, and everybody say, oh, you from Chicago? Y'all got an AK-47 in your hand on every corner. And police, that's not right, correct? Thank you. So there's this misunderstanding, misperception about the South Side that we want to disrupt. And Naomi talked about telling our story. There's thousands of things happening. When you turn on the news, you are bombarded. And I'm going to say something that I probably shouldn't say. Here's where I'm going to go rogue. Deidre, Liz, don't kill me. I'm going to go rogue. But you turn on the news, and the first thing you hear, tragedy. And I'm going to be honest, this is real. And I don't know if it's appropriate, but it's true, and I need to say it. The first thing black folks think, is that a black person? Because we take it, internalize it. Everything that any black person does, we've all done it. Whether right or wrong, that is a reality. So how do we disrupt? Because we don't want anything to happen to be done by anybody. As Congressman mentioned, guns, all the violence that we see, Joe talked about it. Joe, who's been working specifically with young people in ways you don't even know. When tragedy happens, his family and his organization swooped in real time, in the moment, 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock at night, whatever it is, they swooped in and helped support that family. You don't even know it. Those are the things that are happening in our community. How do we tell those stories? So rapid fire. I know you all didn't think I was gonna come back to the question. What are common misconceptions people have about the South Side, and how can we combat them and communicate more effectively? Naomi just gave us a couple. I'm gonna go to Joel.
Well, yeah, I mean, the misperceptions and misconceptions, I think, are pretty obvious in what you're alluding to, the way that our community is portrayed on the news and other things. You know, the neighborhood is not dangerous every place all the time, right? And so taking advantage of that, we should be on the streets, out for walks, planting our flowers, greeting our neighbors. I mean, that, just the fundamental aspects. And I just want to say thank you to Naomi. Every day I walk past a beautiful garden at the end of St. Lawrence, every day. And it's unbelievable. I'm thankful for it every day. And I think those kinds of things, like those are the true stories. One other very quick thing. When I first moved into the neighborhood, I obviously did not grow up here, and I did not know the neighborhood well. And I'll never forget the day that Mrs. Clark schooled me on how it is that I understood the neighborhood to be. And she said to me, Joel, when I grew up here, we walked barefoot to the park on the weekends and rode horses.
Yep.
And that is a truer story of the nature of this community than many of the things that we often hear lifted up.
Tiffany.
All right. If you don't know Miss Clark, get to know Miss Clark.
Gotta know Miss Clark.
My neighbor. She was my neighbor.
Yes.
I would just say that misconception is that we don't support each other and we don't uplift each other. I'm definitely a testament of support and upliftment in our neighborhood. From everyone on this panel, and most of the people who put on the Woodlawn Summit who just believe in resilience. So I think that it's not believed that we're resilient, that we could work through. I also think that, again, without thinking that we support each other, I'm glad that this panel happens. I'm glad the Woodlawn Summit happens. I'm glad that the community gets together. And I guess I always look at it as, before I became a business owner, I wasn't looking at things like this, right? So how can we reach people in our community who aren't looking at things like the summit, who aren't going to visit Blacks and Green, who don't know about the community work that Sunshine does, that Joel does, who don't know about the YMCA, which is a gym in our neighborhood. So just letting people know what is this right here and highlighting it more. And one more thing, Choose Chicago just added Woodlawn, I think it was last year, right, to the map. When I had the cafe on 61st, I was the first person to bring the Chicago Restaurant Week to Woodlawn. Nobody even knew that. And what was so upsetting is Choose Chicago didn't even have Woodlawn listed as a community. I said, well, can you please, it's now listed. But, you know, we gotta let people know.
Letting people know. Dorri.
I'll build off of what Tiffany just said, is that when you hear about the South Side in the news or wherever people speak about it, we act like it's monolithic. We are all individual communities. And so what you talked about, what Woodlawn, it absolutely should be on the map. And the culture of Woodlawn is a thing. And I think that that's what I think the misconception is that it's the South Side. Yeah, we can represent the South Side, but we are also Woodlawn. And we're the different components, and each of us comprise these neighborhoods and make these neighborhoods what they are. What you bring to the neighborhoods, what each of you bring to the neighborhoods, I think is important. And so I think that's part of it, like having this conversation, calling out that it is Woodlawn, that we are one of 77 neighborhoods in Chicago, and we're gonna leverage the assets across the city to bring those resources to this particular neighborhood. I think that's what we need to do more of, and stop letting us get mixed up in the blend. You don't hear North Side neighborhoods or other neighborhoods being just one geographic region. We are Woodlawn, yes, located on the south side of Chicago, but also Woodlawn, right? And I think that needs to be said, because then as we start looking at zip codes and census tracts and all that, we can make sure that those resources get in Woodlawn.
So that was our version of rapid fire, but key points I want to pick up. So when I talked about the history, we've seen, when we started our work, we're a Boston-based development company, nonprofit, came to Chicago because the residents of Grove Park Grove Park Plaza Apartments asked us to come and redevelop. Now I'm gonna look on my left side because I know we're doing the business of the summit, but we're getting a little loud over there. So it's important to note that what Dorri alluded to, real estate is a thing here. This conversation about prices that we talked about, property taxes going up. 2014, we were buying to rehab property, $12,000 for a unit for an 18-unit building. 2 years later, that same building, $186,000 per unit. Now, that was in Woodlawn. That was back then. I'm not making those numbers up. That's real. So these are the things, there's such a kind of multicosm of a lot of things that's happening, all combusting here in Woodlawn. But what kept me, outside of going to Hyde Park Career Academy, yay, what kept me and connected me outside of Miss Jean, because I'm going to tell you these neighbors whooped our ass, but sorry. Sorry, Pastor. Sorry, pastors. These neighbors whooped our butts about coming in and not doing it to them, but with them. So we had to sit back, step back, and do a lot of stuff with community. But one of the things we heard was, this is a vibrant community that you know nothing about. And the stories that weren't being told, but they were telling us, and they were fighting to say, if you listen, you hear why you're investing, but why you have to invest this way. And you got to talk to us. So I looked at, and that was a memory. Now I'm a Woodlawnian. Even though I was born and raised in Chicago, but I'm a Woodlawnian, been here for a long time. Love it, and I wear my shirt wherever I go, even though I don't have it yet. So, follow-up to this is, that was my experience, and I took that and I remembered that. Do you remember a specific experience where you wish that you had done something different? You started your journey, all of you, and I can look in your faces, I know you all, and I've seen some things you've struggled with and some things you've just flourished on. Can you tell us, what is it that you were in that man, I should have went that way? Can you give us a little bit about it? We don't have to do rapid fire, and I'm gonna start with Dorri.
This question is so big because I have to focus on what aspect of my life. Like, I wouldn't have moved to Atlanta with a boy in my 20s. I wish I had done that differently. Big time.
That's another summit. We're going to have a whole summit on that.
But my head went back there. They went back there right away. But, I do think, so I do go back to COVID, quite honestly. So at that time, I was with the YWCA, clearly with the YMCA now. And I think about what more could we have done. And why that matters is because, now I'm at the YMCA, and so for the YWCA is at 63rd and, Little South, 66th and Cottage. The YMCA is at 63rd and Stony. And what I think about is that we did a lot of work and a lot of outreach at the time and really engaging with the residents of Woodlawn when we were on Cottage with the YWCA. And now I sit back here, I was like, what more could we have done if we had partnered with the YMCA then? And that's important because I think between the two organizations that we could have done so much more. And so as I think about that, because particularly what I loved about the direct engagement that we had at the YWCA at the time, that we became that sort of second space for folks as we were doing food distribution and really brought community to our front door and served in a different way than the YWCA had done at the time. And we did not have the same sort of real estate facility and footprint that I now have with the YMCA, but knowing they had that footprint and the services that we were providing, we could have done something different that I think could have served way more people in the community. So I think about that now, mostly because I'm more informed about now what the YMCA has, but that's something I think about and which I think is the root to this summit is how do we do more together? There's a proverb that we all know that, to move fast, go along, to move further, go together. I'm like, yeah, we need to go further faster though, right? And that only happens if we continue to collaborate and work together. So that's something I continue to lean into and think about how I could do that today.
Collaboration and working together. I'm gonna go to Naomi.
Yeah, I have a more esoteric or spiritual response rather than tactical. I think I would have used my happiness, created happiness, it's deepened my happiness as a superpower. Because what I recognize in my path is that
you know, I've been so mad at the world, the way the world is. I didn't want to be happy. And I think a lot of you all know that I worked 12 years for free to get Blacks and Green up and going. And I think, I think it was partially sourced by just a sort of energy that was, I don't know, it's something that I've noticed, that there's a difference in a commitment to be appreciative and loving and light and connected and grounded in the moment of goodness that has really accelerated our growth. So where could we be now if I had been happier years ago?
Now that is powerful. That is a whole nother summit, but on point, yes. I'm gonna go to Tiffany, then I'm gonna go to Joel.
She ended with where could I be now? I guess I think about opening a restaurant during a pandemic. Not a good idea. As you know, it's closed. But I often think about where would it be now if I'd have stuck it out. If I'd have just stuck it out, if I'd have stuck it out. You know, we never know where we're gonna go in life. And things happen for a reason. And we just have to learn from our mistakes constantly, you know? Or learn, if it's not a mistake, it's just a learning lesson. I often think about if I would have kept it there, if I would have just kept going, how would it flourished to this neighborhood, how we get to see the people coming. But I'm so happy to still be so involved in the neighborhood with Woodlawn Diversity in Action and doing our Black Wall Street Festival, that we get so many residents coming out and people still ask, oh, where can we find you now? Mm-hmm. So, everything happened for a reason. On the road.
She's gonna bust out in song and dance after this. No. Joel.
Naomi, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think you did us all a service by saying that. On a similar topic, I've been thinking a lot in the last few years about just the level of conflict that we have in our society, and it happens in so many different settings. But I read this book that said if you remain angry, you cannot be curious when you're angry. And that is something I've just been trying to think a lot about. How do we stay curious? How do we remain engaged in the moment? I think practically speaking, at Sunshine, I do wish, because we were here 20 years ago, and I do wish that we would have done more in the area of home ownership and keeping people in their homes. And so I just have to say, as a shout out, I left Sunshine a couple years ago, and Ms. Kim Sally over there is now the executive director at Sunshine Gospel Ministries.
Hey, Kim. Raise your hand, Kim. All right.
And she has started doing this. She has a project called the Housing Equity Initiative. Yes. And I would encourage you to talk to her, trying to help people not lose their homes to foreclosure through the sale of their real estate taxes in particular. But I feel like we did in some ways miss a window, and yet it's not gone.
That's right.
And so I think we have to be really, really thinking about how do we maintain wealth in this community from longstanding homeowners and new folks. And then the other thing that I frankly wish we would have done more with is just youth employment. Yeah. There is no question, when we were opening Green Line Coffee and later the cafe, I had a paper out in 3rd grade. I don't think I've gone a whole year of my life without a legitimate way to earn money since then. And yet we were hiring 18 and 19-year-old kids who had never had a job before. And that, I think, just as we are wrestling with some of our issues, there's lots of things connected to that idea of youth employment, and I wish we had done more.
So we're gonna turn it over. I'm gonna say, as Joe talked about young people, I was looking at our young people that we celebrated, and they had phones, and I'm trying to manage with my glasses on this piece of paper and my phone too as I talk to the team on the side. Dorri talked about it. Change is rapid. Now it's gonna happen faster, so we've got to be more congealed and more connected and be more of a collective spirit. So we have to get to that. And collective spirit starts with listening where we started, with you. You're why we're here. We want to hear from you. We're gonna take. So I'm looking at my timekeepers. How much time? Somebody just tell me how much time I got. 10 minutes. Can I take 3 questions from the crowd? If that's okay, 1 over here, 1 in the middle, one here. Can I do that? And if there's only 3 people that answer you, raise your hand. Okay, maybe not. One here, one here, one here, and then we'll close us down. We really wanted you to get into the workshops, so that's why we had some really good questions that I thought at first I wasn't gonna like, but I love these questions. God damn good questions. Darn good questions. So, but we really want you to get into the workshops and then begin to have real discussions with each other. So the first question, young man.
Hi, everyone. So good morning. My name is Uthman. I'm an architecture professor at the School of Art Institute of Chicago. Recently moved to thank you.
All right. Let's wait, what?
Appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
So yeah, I recently moved to Chicago in August from New York, from Long Island, New York. So yes, thank you. Welcome. So I'm teaching a studio along with Ellen Grimes. I'm not sure if my co-professor Ellen Grimes is here, but she's here. Okay. Hello, Ellen, wherever you're at. But my question, a question we're posing to our students, they're doing a design project with Blacks in Green on 64th and Cottage Grove. And we posed the question to them thinking about habit, ritual, and event. And so that's the question I want to pose to you all. What is a habit, ritual, or event that you feel is very personal and important to West Woodlawn, either currently or a habit, ritual, or event that you feel like West Woodlawn should develop for the future? What is something that we should begin to cultivate and think about moving forward? So it's okay if you only have one or all 3, but I just want to pose that to you all. So thank you.
I'm just going to look at you all and say we're going to go rapid fire. There we go.
Event, keep doing the summit and expanding it, like for real.
Oh, that was it? That was amazing. Okay, sorry.
You said rapid fire. I mean,
We done. That was beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
Tiffany.
I guess habit. I've never known until like years ago that it was quadrants of Woodlawn. It was just Woodlawn for me.
That's right.
So keep it Woodlawn.
That's now that opens up a count of Pandora's box, but we all in Woodlawn, but there is some history in West Woodlawn. I'll just say that, guys. I know Naomi appreciate that. Joel.
When the weather gets just a little warmer, walk into Washington Park off of St. Lawrence and greet the people who have the music out.
Yep.
They're there all the time,
Yep.
and they are a delight to talk to.
Good question.
Well, I would turn it back to the audience. I want to hear from you all, because now that we have the Shrine of the Great Migration on 65th and Champlain, I want you to come and bring the rituals. I want you to bring the new habits. I want you to bring the stories. I want you to make it your place. I want to feel how it feels to be Woodlawn through the eyes of everyone here, the past, the present, and the future.
Next question. Good answers. Great question. Thank you. We can't hear you, Mr. Will. Mr. Hill. I call him Mr. Will, but his name is.
Hello, my name is William Hill. I'm a lifetime resident of Woodlawn. I create green spaces in Woodlawn, and also I teach Hyde Park High School students landscape design and wellness. And so it's a major project.
Right.
Because our youth need to understand sustainability and climate change. Naomi, my question to you is, where can I find resources regarding climate change?
Well, if you come up to our room on the workshop, we've got Scott Collis from Argonne Labs here to talk to you about climate change, the science of it. We've got Olga Batista from Southeast Environmental Task Force. I know she's out there, who's going to talk about the cumulative impact of climate change on people's bodies and their communities. We've got the University of Illinois here from the School of Public Health that'll talk about climate and its impacts in the body and the system. And look, we've got an ongoing campaign to distribute the $4 trillion the Biden administration has made available, kind of like Roosevelt did in the New Deal, but not intentionally discriminating against black people, but quite the opposite, using Justice 40 and any number of other tools. Trillions, that's more than the New Deal. That's more than the bank bailout. That's more than the COVID rescue. It's money that's here now, and it's based on how do we bring justice to the center, Didn't Martin Luther King say the arc of justice is long, but it bends toward justice? Well, this is that moment. The moment is now to make environmental justice real in your pocketbook, in your neighborhoods, in your families. Come on up and hear about it.
Can I add one thing to that too, Naomi? In addition to that, the Museum of Science and Industry is running an exhibit called The Blue Paradox about the
Amazing.
ocean. Amazing. Yes. But people don't know because you got to actually get to the end of that. But the YMCA is partnering with the MSI to offer free swim lessons. You heard it, free swim lessons, because we need people to understand our oceans, because that's a huge part of the climate change and the environmental justice that we need to see happening. So also do that and that. We got a lot of resources here on the south side to go do.
Free,
It
free
is
for
an
adults too.
incredible,
All ages at the south side. Why? Or actually, you can choose a location. It's just a free.
So see, if you pay attention when you're not talking, that's a little nugget you didn't even realize.
And swim lessons is not just for kids. I know a lot of adults that still have no idea how to swim. So if this is you, take advantage of it.
Our last question.
Swimming is fun.
Our last question. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you to repeat. My name is Goze. I'm from the YWCA Cabrini. And you said something about the shrine for the Great Migration. I looked it up on Google, couldn't find it. So can you give us the
We just closed on it a couple of weeks ago. So it's the former Lincoln Memorial Congregational United Church of Christ, 6454 South Champlain. It's a beautiful, beautiful church and sanctuary. Wonderful office space. We're growing. The staff is doubling. And the idea that the community can come in. This is where this program is going to be housed. We will have staff. We will have office hours. Come in, talk to people about where is your Biden billion and what can you do with it. You've got to be working at scale to rebuild communities like Woodlawn, and that is the place. And, you know, we're the stewards to help ensure that that happens. Yeah.
So we've just got a few more minutes, but I'm going to be real loud when I say the voices on the side must bring their voices down. We're not finished yet. So if you're listening, we've gotten some good nuggets. I don't know about you, because in my head, this has been we've been kind of doing rapid fire all over the place, but I think it all comes back to the goal is to get information when you leave here. So I'm going to ask one final, yes, I'm going rogue again, sorry. One final question this is rapid fire to the panelists. Tell me, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Don't give me a number. Do you give me a vehicle? Is it phone? Is it email? Is it text? Which one is it? Naomi.
Website, blacksandgreen.org. You can find out about the TIC-TAC, Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center there.
But if I want to call you Naomi, should I text you? Or should I, as Felicia, when we want to just talk about what's going on? When people get connected to you, do they text you or do they call you on the phone?
Definitely a text, and I got my business cards in my pocket. Come get one.
She is the quintessential seller. Joel, if I want to talk to you, what do you tell people to do to get connected to you?
Text me.
Okay, Tiffany.
I am not busy, y'all. Call me, even though I'm busy. People always say they don't call me because I'm so busy. I said, well, just call me.
Dorri?
Text and go see us at the Southside Y.
Okay. So I'm going to say the best way to get to me is text because I'm all over the country. I travel a lot. But I said that for a reason because I'm going to do a shameless plug as the voices get lower on the side. We just talked about changes and what's kind of the vehicle for changes to happen more rapidly now than 20, 40 years ago is technology. I'm going to give a shout out to a young man, very unassuming. His name is Dwayne Douglas. He owns his own Black Man ISP. You don't find that. And he's moving slowly. Just pay attention. That is rare. That is hard to find. But he is an IT engineer. I don't know if that's a thing. I just gave him that title. But that is what he does. You don't know that that's here. These are the nuggets that you don't know because there are things happening. So that's why I asked that question. So finally, as my timekeeper kicked my butt here, I want to say this. We've heard all of this stuff, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a whole lot of stuff that we see when we turn on the TV, the news, everywhere, every city. The one thing that you hear about is what somebody has done and who responds when there's an altercation, violent activity, the police. So I'm gonna say where all my officers were in the back, and if they have just left, I did not want the officers to not be here. We have to give a special shout out to Chicago PD. I know Sarah, I know Sandra, I know I'm supposed to go. Remember, we want you to leave this summit with a fire in your belly about what could happen, where we've been. Don't sleep on where we can go, and don't sleep on how valuable you are in making change happen, because we are the game changers. Get you something to drink, go to a breakout session, and hold up, because somebody else got one more thing to say. Thank you all.
Now, if Felicia Dawson can't get you engaged in this phenomenal panel, I don't know what can. Right now, we want to just ease on into our breakout sessions, but ease on quickly. Amen. Amen. All right, breakout sessions are starting in 5 minutes. The screens will direct you to your sessions. I'm asking that anyone that has not stopped up at registration, we have bags. Each breakout session will also have a Cooper's Hawk raffle. You must be in your room to win the raffle. Thank you all so much. Enjoy your sessions.